before we talk any further, I would like to introduce someone special to us, Sir David Madden, who's been involved in the Brook for many, many years, not only in the UK, but is also a director of the Brook USA. Sir David has a very illustrious career, High Commissioner to Cyprus, and the Ambassador to Greece, Great Britain, now involved with Oxford University, and also a published author. But as I said, David knows a lot about this charity. It's been very, very close to him for a long, long time. And he's just going to say a few words about how this incredible organisation started.
Thank you for the introduction, Brendan. Okay, last year, as I'm sure you all know, was the centenary of the outbreak of the First World War. The First World War was, by any account, a total catastrophe. Because of the breakdown of the concert of nations in Europe at the end of the 19th century, because of the weakening of the Ottoman Empire, because the big powers were meddling in Southeast Europe, and because the peoples of Southeast Europe were also meddling in each other's affairs, the situation arrived when, after the shootings by Gavrilo Princip in Sarajevo on the 28th of June 1914, Europe went inevitably, as it would seem, to war, because no one was prepared to stop that process. And the result, as I say, was a total catastrophe, a catastrophe which led to so many of the other calamities of the 20th century, a catastrophe for the people involved in the fighting, and of course civilians as well in many cases, millions killed, which seemed pointless even at the time, especially in the second and third and fourth years of the war, but actually seem increasingly pointless to us now looking back at it. How could this thing have happened? A catastrophe from the point of view of animals, whether you're talking about farm animals. Just imagine what happened to the animals in those fields that were fought over in Europe over all those years. Wild animals, domestic animals. But obviously what concerns us mainly today is a catastrophe for the animals who were forced to be part of those huge armies, whether as cavalry horses, transport horses, pack horses, draft horses. A dreadful catastrophe for them as well. Some of you may have seen either the film or the play version of War Horse, which tells a story about a horse who is requisitioned in England, goes out, fights with various people on the Western Front, and then, miracle of miracle, actually returns to England. Well, I do not honestly believe that happened in many cases. Others of you may have seen the beautiful monument to animals in war, which is in Park Lane in London, which the moving spirit, in fact, was an earlier chairman of the Brook, Peter Davis. And there's this very nice monument to animals in war, animals who died in war, with on one side you get these poor laden animals, laden with material, sort of trudging up a slope. They go through a little gate, and then the far side, they're sort of galloping off, and, you know, free at last. Lovely. But the sad fact is that a lot of the animals and the animals who were working with the armies after the war, they were not free at last. Far from it. And the sad fact is, that a lot of the animals which had been requisitioned in the United Kingdom, in the United States, in Australia, were just left when the armies left. They were left behind, they were left to suffer, they were left to do drudgery in appalling conditions. And these are the animals which Dorothy Brooke found when she went to Cairo with her husband, Brigadier Brooks, in 1930. She was absolutely horrified by what she found, because she found these horses in terrible, emaciated conditions. And then, worst of all, she learnt that these animals had simply been abandoned, had been left behind when the armies left, and just left to their own devices. And what did she do? Well, the answer is she didn't just leave it there. She acted. She did something. And what she did was she publicized the plight of these animals, and she raised money very successfully. And the money was spent partly, obviously, in providing water troughs and other things for the animals, so at least they had some little comfort in their lives. And the other thing she did, the other main thing she did, was to set up the clinic in Cairo. In the middle of Cairo, there was a clinic for animals. And it's still there today. And I visited it many times when I visited the operation in Egypt. And I can tell you, it is an absolute oasis. You come in from the heat and dust and noise and bustle of those busy Cairo streets, and you enter this place where these horses, mules, even donkeys, they have a stall of their own for the first time in their lives, I should think, and they're actually being looked after and tended to, and they're actually having a bit of peace and quiet. And it's actually a deeply moving experience to visit the clinic there. But what, of course, I have to emphasize is that the work doesn't cease there. It doesn't end there at all, because around this world of ours, there are about 100 million working equines, working often in terrible conditions, appalling work. You can think of them working in brick kilns, in coal mines, in rubbish tips, doing the most appalling work under very bad conditions. And the brook has to find a way of reaching out to all those animals so that they have a chance. And part of that is educating owners, educating communities, educating local vets, educating local service providers, just doing all we can to help those animals live a better life and one that they deserve to have. From that relatively small acorn in the clinic in Cairo, we now have a huge brook oak tree worldwide looking after working equines. And this is work which, as I say, has to go on, because so far we can only reach a small percentage of the world's population of working equines, and it's always the ambition to find a way of reaching out to more so we can help them. I'll just finish with two words, really. One is name, Brooke. It's absolutely essential that what she did, her exceptional service and commitment and her pity and commiseration for the animals, should be remembered, and it is in the name of the organisation. And the second word is family, in three senses. The Brooke family were always very associated with the work of the Brooke Hospital, and indeed one of her granddaughters is still a honorary vice president of the organisation. Secondly, we see ourselves as a family worldwide, the Brooke family, and indeed we get together once a year as the Brooke family to have meetings, to reach common understandings, common purpose, common way of doing what we feel we should do, and exchange best practice between us. And the third use I want to make of the word family is that Brooke USA is a very, very important member of that family, and we are delighted and honoured that Brooke USA exists and is part of our family. Thank you very much.